The Champion of Champions, one of the biggest tournaments on the snooker circuit, is back again this week, and just like I have done for the past couple of years, I'm going to go through the draw and try and predict the winners of each of the 4 groups that we have this year. And we'll start with the defending champion, who gets his title defence underway against Alfie Burden, whose inclusion in this tournament was almost controversially not going to happen at one stage. There was talks of the final spot going to the highest ranked player not to win a tournament, which coincidentally would have been Ronnie O'Sullivan. But fortunately for me, I think the right decision was eventually made to include the seniors world champion instead, a decision that has been made pretty much every year since the tournament has been around. For Alfie, this will be his first appearance at the tournament, and he is playing a man who he has only ever beaten once, and that was at the 6th Red World Championship. Then for Mark Williams, on the other hand, since winning the title for the first time 12 months ago, he has gone on to reach the final of the World Championship, and then he won the Xi'an Grand Prix last month, and is continuing to show no signs of decline. Best of sevens can always be a bit of a lottery, but you have to make the Welshman a strong favourite to get through this first test. And then we have Mark Selby and Stephen Maguire, which offers a really interesting second match in this group because both of them have been in good form this season. Mark has reached 3 semi-finals, and Maguire has backed up his win at the Championship League by making it to the semi-finals last week in China, so should be full of confidence at the moment. The head-to-head between the pair is very, very close, and they have both beaten each other at this event before. I may have considered jet lag being a factor for Maguire, but not playing until Wednesday does help him, and I do slightly fancy him to get a result here actually. And that would leave us with a quarter-final or a group final between Mark Williams and Stephen Maguire. Again, if you look at a head-to-head, it could not be more even, with Stephen winning their most recent meeting at the Welsh Open. Maguire has never reached it to a Champion of Champions semi-final in his last 6 appearances, but I'm actually going to go with him to beat Selby and Williams to get through this opening group. And then Group B is the group that kicks off the tournament today, which sees the world number 1 open his bid for a second title here against the women's world champion Bai Yu Liu, who is fresh off the back of making a 145 break last week, which is the highest break ever made by a woman on the professional circuit. I've spoken about Bai quite a bit and how I believe she has the strongest potential of any of the women we have previously seen to have a successful career on the professional tour. Now, the likelihood is that she will drop off at the end of this season, but I suspect we would see her back very soon anyway. As for this match though, Judd of course is a heavy favourite. Bai did take a couple of frames off Mark Williams in the first round last year, and may well do the same here, but it is so tough to see her causing an upset. We also have Shaun Murphy, who is arguably the player of the season so far, and he will also be bidding for a second Champion of Champions title after winning it for the first time 8 years ago. He faces Li Paifan, who shot the world to win the Scottish Open last December, and he also went on to beat Kyren Wilson on the opening day of the World Championship in the spring. The debutant couldn't really have been handed a tougher draw here, and although he can take confidence from the fact he beat Murphy on his way to the title in Scotland last year, it is so tough to see him getting past a man in the form that Shaun is currently in. And that would ultimately leave us with the quarterfinal I think we would all want to see. Murphy ended an 8-match losing streak against Judd by beating him at the British Open earlier this season, and does come into this perhaps as a marginal favourite based on the form books. His overall record at this event though isn't great, having only made it out of his group twice in 11 previous appearances. He's also lost first round here on 7 occasions. Judd, on the other hand, has lost in 4 finals in addition to his win back in 2021, and is often a man to back in this event, so it's very much a question of whether you go with the history books or the form guide on this one. I may just go with the form books here though, and I have Murphy to edge his way through. Now, every year at this tournament I always seem to be on the lookout for a group of death, and I think Group C may just be that for this year. The man of the moment, Jack Lazowski, will look to build on the momentum he currently has, but he faces the world number 2 Kyren Wilson first round. Kyren has struggled somewhat this season, and he has alluded to off-table struggles which have no doubt contributed to that. Still though, Kyren has won a title this season at the Shanghai Masters and may just have the motivation to try and win this title for a first time. Right now though, I really have to fancy Lazowski. He'll be looking to ride this wave for as long as possible. and after beating Wilson on his way to the Northern Ireland title, should have no fear about trying to repeat that result here. And then we would have the world champion against the only man in this group to have won this title before. Zhao was struggling somewhat this season, but a run to the semi-finals in China last week may have alleviated some of the pressure that he was either putting on himself or felt was being put on him externally. This will only be his second appearance at this tournament, and he got taught a bit of a lesson on his debut 3 years ago when he lost 6-1 to O'Sullivan. Mark Allen, on the other hand, has a really strong record at this tournament. The current English Open champion is one of only 3 men to have won this title on more than one occasion, and has been a runner-up back in 2015 as well, and has also had 4 other semi-finals here. On top of that, Mark has never lost to his opponent, although it should be said that they have only played each other on 3 occasions before. So with those stats in mind, I can't look past Mark here. Which would leave us with a Mark Allen versus Jack Lisowski match for a semi-final spot. The head-to-head between that pair is very close, but outside of the snooker shootout, Lisowski actually hasn't beaten Mark since 2019. I would wager that if this is the quarterfinal that we end up having, then it would probably go the whole distance to a deciding frame. And if that was the case, I think I would slightly favour Allen to come through. And then we have the final group of the tournament, which is headed up by Neil Robertson, who is another man to have won this title twice before. Neil is top of the 1-year list this season because of the £500,000 he won in Saudi Arabia, but outside of that, he actually hasn't made it past the last 16 of any other tournament. And he plays our final debutant this year in Tom Ford, who qualified by virtue of his win at a snooker shootout last season. And Tom does have plenty of reason to be optimistic here, because after losing his first 4 matches against Neil, he has gone on to win 5 of their previous 6 meetings, and 3 of those wins have come in the past 12 months. So he has definitely become a bogey player for Neil, but I also do have a suspicion that Neil will be really targeting the next few tournaments, this one, the UK Championship, the Masters. So I've got him down to win, but I do think that this could go the distance as well. And then we have the 2016 champion John Higgins, fresh off the back of his run to the International Championship final last week. John missed out on this event for the first time last season when he was enduring a lengthy trophy drought, but returns here as a man ranked 6th in the world. And he faces the world number 11 Zhao Guodong, who after making it to the final on his debut last year, will be looking to go one step further this time around. This will be the 5th time that this pair have faced each other in 2025 alone. Higgins has won 3 of those previous 4 meetings so far, which included a dramatic win in a deciding frame at the Crucible. But notably, Zhao has won their most recent meeting in Shanghai this season. I do think a lot will come down to how quickly John can get over jet lag here. He is playing on Thursday, which helps him, but there is a part of me that thinks that such a short turnover is not something that he can probably deal with as well as he used to. And with Zhao becoming such a solid competitor these days, I've gone with him to make it through this one. And that would leave us with a Robertson versus Zhao quarterfinal. And again, the head-to-head here only just falls in Robertson's favour, but he has won all of their past 3 meetings. Unsurprisingly, I have observed Neil more than most this season, and I do think his game is in pretty decent shape, and in a similar vein to Judd Trump, hasn't really been getting the results to back that up on a consistent basis. I am probably being swayed by bias here because both Tom Ford and Zhao Guodong present huge possible banana skins, but I am going to go with Neil to come through. Now, unfortunately, at the time of recording this, I don't actually know how the rest of the draw would unfold, so I can't predict how the semi-finals and the final would turn out, which makes predicting the overall winner pretty difficult, so I'm not going to go any further than that. Although I would say that if it did end up being those 4 semi-finalists that I predicted, I would probably maybe make Mark Allen the slight favourite to go on and win the title. Of course, as always, let me know what you think and enjoy the tournament because it is usually a cracker.